I contacted what they call Tokyo Yokohama asthma because of the environment, the weather environment in the Tokyo Yokohama area. I got it was asthma. I went to the hospital and the doctors looked at me and they said, we can put you on a boat and 100 miles out to sea, you're going to be okay. You got to get you out of this environment. I volunteered to go down to Nagoya because that was 300 miles south of Tokyo. And what we did in Nagoya, there was 4 of us that was assigned to a I'll call it was an alert pad. I was in the Japan Air Defense Forces, and this place down in Nagoya was strictly an intercept to intercept all unknown aircraft and so on and so forth coming in off the China Sea. So there was 4 of us assigned to this place down there, and our job was to refuel airplanes, prepare them for the next flight, receive them after the flight, to refuel them, and what they call a turnaround, and get it ready to go for the next flight. There was 4 aircraft down there, and there was 4 enlisted men. So in the process of us taking care of all the 4 aircraft from the 40th Fighter Interceptor Squadron, one morning we came down and we started receiving airplanes from the 41st Fighter Interceptor Squadron, which was a neighbor squadron, but it was not our squadron. So we were taking care of somebody else's airplanes. We were taking care of the 41st Fighter Interceptor Squadron airplanes, and we were turning those around. Now, you never know what's going on. As an enlisted man, you do your job. Is what was happening, it was an air defense exercise, and they were sending 41st Fighter Interceptor Squadron airplanes down there for us to turn around. So in the process of doing that, we were busy. As long as it seemed like every time 2 came in, 2 was ready to go out. So anyway, they really wanted a turnaround time. From the time an airplane came in, they wanted it turned around and ready to go again. Well, I'm getting ahead of myself. But the pilots that were doing the intercepting of the aircraft, unidentified aircraft, they had 3 minutes from the time the scramble bell rang to get in their airplane and be airborne. So we had to be ready to put the pilots in the cockpit, strap them in, pull the chock, start the engines, and get them off the ground within 3 minutes. And there was 4 of us doing this. But we were busy because we had our own airplanes, and we had 41st Fighter Interceptor Squadron also. So in the process of doing this, needless to say, it was a long day, and it was a busy day, and nobody complained. We did our job. But in the process of doing this, we didn't realize, and they never tell us enlisted men what's happening, so it's an air defense exercise that was recognized by the upper echelons. So dated here on the 15th of April, 1954, I have a letter of appreciation to Airman First Class Howard Andersen, 40th Fighter Interceptor Squadron, APO 994. That's our home base. APO 994 was Johnson Air Base.
15 April 1954. Subject: Letter of Appreciation. To Airman First Class Howard R. Andersen, 40th Fighter Interceptor Squadron, APO 994. 1. I take this opportunity to express my appreciation for a job well done during the ADX on 9 April 1953. The extra hours you spent performing your duties was instrumental in making this exercise the most successful ADX ever held in this command. Not only am I cognizant of the fine work done at Komaki, but also the higher-ranking officers in the 35th Fighter Interceptor Wing and the 41st Air Division have complimented you and expressed their views of your fine work. The cooperation you extended to visiting pilots and the ability you displayed in working as a team has set an excellent example for all personnel in the 40th Fighter Interceptor Squadron and this command. 2. I'm fully aware that you did the work of a normal complement of 3 airmen in turning aircraft around and enabling them to become airborne in a very short period of time. Your efforts and devotion to duty is exemplary. A copy of this letter will be placed in the permanent section of your 201 file. Elliot P. Brogdon, Major, United States Air Force, Commander.
That was number one. That was a poor little old enlisted man doing his thing in the Air Force and was enjoying every minute of it. So I really appreciate that letter. One of my accomplishments in the military right there. That's it. Okay, so anyway, that ended my time down there in Komaki, and then I was then transferred back up to Johnson Air Base, my home base, because it was time for my return from Japan. So anyway, I went back up to Johnson Air Force Base, and of course they processed me to return back to the United States. And the departure area was Yokohama, Japan, which is right next door to Tokyo. And we got on this great big troop ship thinking, well, we're going to go back to the USA. But what they don't tell you, they never tell you anything. The ship that we got on also had about 1,000 soldiers on there that they wanted to take over to Busan, Korea. So the ship, instead of going back to the United States, it went all the way down to if you can visualize the island of Honshu, that's the big island, went all the way down around the bottom of it and then back up the other side over to Busan, Korea. So the next morning when we wake up and get out on deck, we realize we're in Busan, Korea. And they let all these soldiers off, and then we packed up again and back to the USA. Needless to say, around the southern end of the island of Honshu. And then we're heading back towards Seattle, Washington is where we're going. And it is a long trip. That Pacific Ocean is a big ocean. So finally we arrived back in the United States in Seattle. But I think one of the things that's still in my mind, and I can't remember the name of the strait that comes in off the Pacific Island, or Pacific Ocean, and heads down into Seattle. It heads down into Puget Sound. But we're looking off the deck of this great big ship, and all the houses and great big mansions, you can imagine the kind of people that live in. All the houses are painted. After being in Japan, nobody paints their houses in Japan. So everything is dull and gray, and you just think nothing of it. But when you spend a little over 2 years over there looking at that and then come back and see all these great big mansions all painted in shiny white and so on and so forth, it was a sight to behold. So anyway, we arrived down in wherever they docked the ship in Seattle, and we were informed, myself and I think the whole, whatever Air Force personnel might have been on, we were assigned to KP. So my first sight of people in Seattle was looking out the porthole, had all these people that were fortunate enough to be the first ones off the ship and greeted by all their friends and relatives and all that. I'm looking out at the porthole while I'm doing KP. So anyway, we finished KP, and of course we're in our fatigues, and we go back to put our uniforms on, and Class A uniforms. And sure enough, somebody had stole my cap. Probably one of the crew members ran off with it, you know. So I reached in the duffel bag and I got that other overseas cap and put it on. So finally we're allowed off the ship and we're going down the gangplank. And of course we have some big non-commissioned officer, I guess, standing at the top of the gangplank, and he's complaining because we all look so you're the raggedest bunch of guys we ever come off of this ship. Your uniforms are all wrinkled and everything else, and all you could think of was, good God, man, we just spent almost 2 weeks, better than 2 weeks on that ship with that. Uniforms are packed down in that duffel bag, and you expect to come out there looking like they're ironed, you know? So eventually we get processed out and we're turned off into the civilian world. And one of the first things we did, I remember myself and several of us, we stopped at a little local tavern, and we're so used to having a beer in our hand and walking freely wherever we want to go. We're go up to the bar and order a beer and start to walk away. And he says, no, you can't do that. You got to drink it here. You can't carry it. And I said, oh, well, welcome to the USA, you know. So now all we had to do was figure out how to get home. And they only give you travel pay from Seattle to your next base that you're going to, which was Nellis Air Force Base. And that was not very far away, so needless to say, we didn't get a whole lot of travel pay. So myself and a couple other guys thought, why don't we go out west here to Moses Lake, Washington, a great big Air Force base there, and see if we can't catch a hop back into out east someplace. So we get out there and come to find out, well, yeah, there is a C-124 leaving for Texas in about, I don't know, maybe within the day, I guess. So we get on that and we get down to Texas. You got anything heading towards Chicago, Indiana, or Illinois? Or no. So we finally give up. We go down, we get on a bus. Now we're coming back to Chicago on a bus. Well, we wind up in Chicago. I don't know where. Yeah, I had to get transportation back out from Chicago to Somonauk. So that's another bus. And I can remember getting off the bus in Somonauk and picking up my duffel bag and walking home. And so we're always used to walking, you know. So anyway, I walked home, and of course, my mother, nobody knew when I was going to arrive. So you should have seen the welcome. You see them on the television today, the parents and the wives and everybody greeting. So I got a humongous greeting at the back door, and that was my, well, welcome home, you know. So then the next thing, you know, is Billy's coming home from school, and Judy's coming home, Pauline, everybody's coming home from school, and this, here's your big brother. He's back from, been gone for 2.5 years, almost 2.5 years, you know. So that was really a pleasant arrival. So I stick around all day. I'm wondering where all my friends are, but I said, I got to stay right here till my dad gets home, you know. So he was quite shocked, too, to be honest with you. So, and we had a great time in the evening, you know, and I don't know whether the next day Dad had to work or anything, but I settled back into being home after 2 years and 2 months. So, and then I got to go and see my friends and so on and so forth. So I just kind of melted back into being away from the military. But now to back up just a little bit, when I landed at Seattle, I had enjoyed all my time overseas. I loved working on the airplanes. I was 19 years old when I went over there, and I'm like 22 when I come home. So when we landed at Seattle, they said, well, you can get a discharge right here today because you've got less than 6 months to do, because we landed in July. So in December, I was due to be discharged. I said, if you want a discharge, you can get it today because you got less than 6 months to do. But if you take this discharge and you want to re-enlist, you're going to lose one stripe. And there's a few other conditions too. I don't remember what they are. But I thought, I enjoyed being my job when I was in Japan, hands-on airplanes and so on and so forth. So I thought, I just might want to stay in the Air Force. So I did not take the discharge. That's when I started finding a way to get home. Well, you might know, after my 30-day leave at home, I had to show up back at Nellis Air Force Base in Las Vegas. And I got out to Nellis, and I was assigned to a maintenance crew, and I don't remember the number, but it was a great big, it was production line maintenance, as they called it. You were in a great big hangar, and there was 4 rows of airplanes coming in. Station 1, everybody's working on brakes. Station 2, everybody is working on flaps. Station 3, everybody is working on something else. I get assigned to an outfit or a unit that did nothing but all the updates on the airplane. We had to check and see that they were done, and if they were not done, that we would make the update. So I did not like the idea of working in a great big hangar. To me, it was like going down to Caterpillar and working at Caterpillar. I'm trapped inside this great big building, and I just plain did not like it. So when those 6 months were up, it's December now, December 1954. So when that time came up, my enlistment was over. I came home, and kind of the rest is history.